Hey guys, perfect day to start rebuilding my SM465 transmission. I've been through the video of removing the top cover of that transmission. I went through the custom built shifter that I built, and now it's time to rebuild this thing. I've got my basic kit from Novak Adapters, and I also ordered from them a new third gear and third gear synchro and bushing. It's the updated version to prevent, some of you have experienced sometimes popping out of third gear. Other times it just seems like very light hand pressure and it'll pop right out. Anyway, the updated version of the third gear assembly is supposed to prevent that, so we'll see. I hope so. Anyway, the stuff came from Novak Adapters. It seems to be good quality stuff, and we're going to go through the rebuild now. Thanks for watching. Something else I'll mention is that it's been a long time since I've been into one of these transmissions, so I'm going to go strictly by the book. I've got a GM book and a couple other off-brand books, but I should be able to go straight through with the GM book, and we'll do it that way. Okay, the first thing we're going to do after we get the top cover off is lock it into 2 gears. Right now we're in reverse. That's part of the process of getting the top cover off. We're going to get it locked into 2 gears. Here we go. So everything's locked together. That'll make it easy to work with. On a 2-wheel drive, you'll have, this is your output shaft. You'll have your drive shaft yoke, your U-joint yoke right here, so there'll be a nut on the outside. You'll zap it off, pull that out. 4-wheel drive, you're mating up to the, there's a female coupler here, and then that mates up to your transfer case. By the way, the NP205 transfer case build is another set of videos there. Anyway, on this 4-wheel drive, we're going to get that lock nut off with our special tool. Just a punch, about a 1/4 inch punch on the end, and there is a GM spanner type tool for this, but I don't have one. So we'll do it the farmer method. There's your lock nut. It's got a taper on one side of it, and then your locking ring, and that'll get us to the bearing. You're going to pull this retainer off. It's got 4 bolts. There's a little oil groove for return oil, and that goes, you'll see a hole down here. It's the only other hole that's not a bolt hole. When you put it back together, just make sure you get that right. That'll get us to the front bearing. Okay, now this is where you're going to want some decent snap ring pliers. We're going to pull the outer snap ring on this front bearing. This one's not too stout, so you might get by without the best pair of snap ring pliers. Okay, outer. Now the inner. Try and keep that ring captive so it doesn't fly off and take out the neighbor's cat. Inner snap ring. Then, in the old snap ring groove, we're going to get our puller situated. Hopefully my puller is big enough. Okay, it's disclaimer time. Don't try this crap at home. My puller is not big enough. I don't feel like going and trying to find another puller in town. So I'm making it work this is this isn't kosher. What I did was found a piece of all thread and this other goofy eye bolt that are long enough to get the spread. My jaws aren't actually, the diameter isn't made right for this size of a bearing, but we're gonna try it. Don't try this at home. This is what silly people do. This is weird and yeah, unprofessional. I'm not proud. This bearing is actually the whole reason I parked the truck. You see a couple balls fell out, the metal retainer on the back fell out and got ground up in the bottom of it. There's part of it. So yeah, that was the noise and the racket and the reason I parked the truck. So there's that. And like I said, don't try this at home. I think I got kind of lucky that it worked out so slick, but yep, it worked. Farmer method. Okay, there is a cutout right here. See that flat spot? You kind of see it better right there. You'll want to rotate that to the bottom. And you'll see why in a few minutes. Okay, now we're going to remove the rear main shaft bearing in the same manner, farmer method, that we did the front main shaft bearing. The four-wheel drive model, there's not an inner snap ring. Now we'll do counter shaft bearings. One end is the same as what we just did. 2 snap rings. And alright, there's the rear counter shaft bearing. In the front, case is getting lighter as we go. The front, it's got slotted machine screws here. You can get the top shafts out with the counter shaft still intact and in place, but it's a little harder. But if you weren't going to be doing a complete rebuild, maybe just replacing third gear or something like that and not messing with your counter shaft, then you could leave it in and still get these out.
Okay, so grab the back side of your counter shaft and put a little pressure.
Just enough to get it to lay down in the bottom of the case. Okay, you don't have to pull the counter shaft down. Anyway, remember that flat spot that we had? Make sure it's turned down. Okay, and then we'll be able to split. Obviously, it takes some jostling. Make sure we're still in focus here. Okay. Spun just right. There we go. You see your needle bearings in there. Got new ones in the kit, so not that big a deal. You just want to keep track of everything. And you can think this Synchro will make its way out. Okay. Now we'll pull the rest of the main shaft, and this is a finger biter. And again, you gotta get the stars aligned right and your tongue in the correct spot and your eyeballs crossed just right, and it'll miraculously pop out. Put it on the side. See if I can get gravity to help me a little bit. There we go. Okay. Just putting it on its side allowed. Get it back up. Allowed me to get that main shaft to tilt just far enough. Okay, again, watch your fingers. You might want to put on leather gloves. Because you're going to need your fingers for the rest of this project. Okay, so there's your main shaft. What we heard fall down was just a thrust washer. Just that thrust washer. I'm going to go ahead and put it back on top there, just so I know, just to keep track of things. That thrust washer goes right there on that end, no biggie. Just want to make sure it's in the right spot. Anyway, there's the main shaft, the rest of it. Alright, so there we are. Sorry. Here's your counter shaft. Here's your reverse idler gear. It just sits on there on a shaft and does its thing. Getting the counter shaft out, it's going to tangle with the reverse idler gear a little bit. Just once again, it's going to take just the right angles and stars to align to get it, but here we go. You know, slide it rearward. Now the book didn't say anything about this gear hitting the case right here before you can get it out. So I'm wondering if we either need to pull this Torrington bearing which I don't know if I have the right puller. I know you can get that bearing out once the shaft is out, but I don't know if you can get the shaft out without pulling the bearing out. Anyway, there's also a snap ring on this gear that I think if I can get it loose, I could slide this gear back, and that would So right now it looks like the back side of this Torrington bearing is catching the end of the shaft on the counter shaft. I know I have a new bearing, so I'm not too worried about ruining it, but it's making it a pain in the butt. That's probably where it would be best to get that bearing out. I don't have a puller that's going to fit down in there. So I think destroying it's going to be inevitable. Still struggling here. There we go. Okay, so obviously I destroyed that bearing, but it gave me the clearance to get my counter shaft out, and then your reverse idler gear is in there. We're going to can drive that pin out. Should be able to drive the shaft that the reverse idler gear is on. Rearward. See that? Anyway, there's your reverse idler shaft, reverse idler gear. We just drove it out. The shaft is actually on the back side of your case. You see a D shape or half circle shape that kind of protrudes out, and that's that piece. That's your reverse idler gear shaft. So now our case is empty. We'll do some power washing and some cleaning and keep moving forward. Okay, we're going to start working on the main shaft. This is considered your drive gear. Clutch splines onto there, therefore drive gear. We got a new Synchro to put on it. And I'm not sure that all kits have it, but I've got a new oil slinger. So we're going to get the oil slinger off and clean things up, put a new one on, get that set up and set it off to the side. We got 17 new rollers. Those are the old ones. We're going to kind of deform that oil slinger to get it off. Be sure to clean out your snap ring grooves really well, and the spline grooves. I never used to wear gloves when I would use the parts washer. I've always used mineral spirits for solvent, but I've noticed since I've gotten older, the backs of my hands, when I use mineral spirits without gloves, just really they get raw and itchy. So thinking I did some irreparable damage to the skin on my hands when I was younger, not wearing gloves, using mineral spirits as a parts cleaner. So just a little thing for you young whippersnappers. Okay, the drive gear is clean and dry. Gonna put the new oil slinger on. Ideally, I would like to have thin piece of thin walled pipe that was exactly that diameter, but I don't have one. So in order to drive it on, it's not too tough of a drive, so hopefully this will be all right. I've got an old bearing race that I kept just for such a thing. The main thing is you don't want to beat up your new oil slinger. I'm going to use a little brass hammer. One, I want to use a little one so I don't get too much of a beat down on it. And two, if I end up hitting the shaft, I'm not going to beat up my shaft and where the bearing seat. Alright, and make sure it's seated all the way down. There'll be no gap between that gear and the oil slinger. So that looks good. And then this will go in a clean spot. And it'll be considered finished until we're ready to put it in. Alright, so now we'll pull thrust washer off. First gear, we'll set those in order right there, just like that. And next step will be taking it to the press. Yeah, you crashed. Did you hurt your nose? Yeah, kind of hurt, didn't it? You'll have that. You want to work on that?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, before we go to the press, we're going to pull off the reverse driven gear. Okay, I'll keep that in that same stack.
Yeah.
And then, we're going to pull off the 3rd, 4th Synchro snap ring right here. Right? Right, buddy? Good. There you go. You're welcome. Am I doing it right?
Yeah.
Good. I love you. Behind 2nd gear, we're pressing 2nd gear off of the shaft. That's a little bit on the not cool side, but put a ratchet strap around the 2 plates just to keep them from, hopefully keep them from spreading out. Hopefully this doesn't take too much. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Everything getting centered on there.
You can see it pressing out right here. Okay, now this stuff's all loose from 2nd gear up. I'll try and do this without making a mess of all my gears. I'll let that hub sit there and grab everything from the top. Take it to the bench. Keep your toes back. So our main shaft is pretty much disassembled aside from getting bushings off of the shaft. I've got a new 3rd gear, and I think right now I'm just going to go ahead and replace, pull the old, put the new in line because I want to wash the new stuff anyway. So this is what comes in the box, and I said this was an updated version. And I don't see any differences in the slider. I do see a difference in the gear. in that there's a groove machined on the center of where the gears are cut. Otherwise, I don't see the difference, but it's supposed to be an improved version of it. So anyway. Okay, so like I said, I put the new ones in there so I'm liable to forget to put my new ones in, but anyway, I hope this new improved gear takes care of my third gear wanting to pop out easy. So we'll see. I've also got a new third gear bushing, so I'll throw that in. Hi, buddy number 2. Okay, so we've got our 2 bushings still on the main shaft here. I'm going to try a couple different things probably, but the book even says you might have to chisel a slot in the bushing and just and chisel it off of there, depending on how stubborn it's going to be. But we'll get these off and get some new ones pressed on it. We're going to get these keys out and then clean this thing up and press new bushings on. I think we can. Like I said, guys, it's been a while. I haven't really looked at the book on this part. And that's what they look like when they're out. Whoops. And now we'll get this main shaft cleaned up. Okay, so I went ahead and got all of my main shaft gears and hubs and synchros and all that good stuff, sliders, cleaned up and ready to go and in order. And I've got the main shaft in the deep freeze right now. Don't tell my wife. And I've got the 2 bushings that are going to be pressed onto it under a light bulb right now. So the bushings are going to be loose and the shaft should be a little shrunken, we hope, and they should press on a little easier. And just to keep my sanity, my book shows this exactly the other direction, and I'm driving myself bananas trying to compensate every single time. So I'm going to flip all this stuff around just to maintain my sanity. Alright, while we're waiting for our shaft to freeze and shrink and our bushings to heat up and expand, I'm going to go ahead and put the spring and keys in my 3rd, 4th hub here. The other spring and keys are on the shafts, well, they'll go on the shaft when we get it back. I think most of the kits you buy have a new set of them in there. Slide the little keys in. 3 of them. I think they can only go in one way. Yeah. Then grab each one with the spring. Okay, flip it over and do the same thing. I want to clock the spring so they're indexed differently on each side. I don't know if that's one of the actual rules or not, but it seems good to me. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put my keys and springs back in this hub.
Tom, there's one more cracker for you. Tom, there's one more cracker.
There we go. You want that end of each one to go a little bit past the key. Yeah. Now, when I took this apart, both of these springs were in this center groove. And I'm pretty sure that the one is supposed to be on this side. I'm going to put it together like this, and then I'm going to do a lot of research to make sure that that's correct.
Birthday party! Birthday party!
Birthday party? Whose birthday is it?
Tucker!
Oh, I don't know who that is. Okay. Like I said, I'll do some research and make sure that's right. And I'll report back either in this video or in another video. But like I said, both of the rings were in this groove when I took it apart. And I'm pretty sure one is supposed to be in that groove and the other one is supposed to be in this, on this side. So I'll make sure before I get everything put together. Okay, so that's going to do it for our disassembly and the start of our reassembly. We've got our drive gear almost ready to go. We're starting to put our main shaft back together. We've got new bushings pressed on it. We're going to get the gears assembled back on it and lube it up as we go and finish getting the other bushing pressed on, and then we'll keep moving forward with the assembly and then getting this whole thing put back together. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the disassembly and part of the reassembly process, and stay tuned for the next video. Thanks.